Hello and welcome back to the Uneasy Podcast YouTube channel. So, The Mandalorian Chapter 23, The Spies. Have we really waited until the penultimate episode of this season for it to be this good? Have we really waited this long for the show's antagonist Moff Gideon to finally make an appearance? Have we really waited this long for our heroes to face some genuine peril? Well, my answer is yes to all three of those questions. And after a really bumpy ride so far, this season has finally found its way, and it does appear that they were saving the budget for the final two episodes. As for me, it is probably the most cinematic The Mandalorian has looked on a television budget. The opening shot on Coruscant looked like something straight out of Blade Runner, and the shot of the Mandalorian fleet arriving over Navarro looked absolutely amazing. But with all the spectacle, did the plot this week add up to much? Well, in a way it did, but it wasn't without some silly parts, such as Grogu now installed in what used to be IG-11, now imaginatively called IG-12. Yes, Grogu now operates the droid like a Jaeger from Pacific Rim, and to be honest, it does look kind of daft. However, with the droid installed with a yes and no button, it does allow Grogu to communicate in a basic way, and to be fair, this was used effectively in this episode when he split up a fight between Paz Vizsla and Axwoves. Yes, the Mandalorian tribes are now joined together with Bo-Katan holding them together in a somewhat tense alliance, with each faction more or less blaming the other for the fall of Mandalore. However, with Bo admitting later on that she surrendered to Moff Gideon in order to save lives, only for Gideon to betray her, does add another layer to Katie Sackhoff's character. But this is why I'm having a slight issue with this season. While it's called The Mandalorian, just what Mandalorian is it now referring to? Din Djarin has more or less been sidelined to a certain degree this season, and for me this really has been Bo-Katan's story. I haven't got a problem with this, as I think Katie Sackhoff is great and I really like the Bo-Katan character. But this show is meant to be about Din Djarin, and I think this is why viewers have, been less than keen this season. Also, showrunner Dave Filoni has also got on record that the Mandalorian can now mean any Mandalorian, which is fair enough, but I think this is a misstep, as the one reason everyone engaged with this show in the first place was Din and Grogu, and taking the focus away from them, well, the season has suffered as a result. But of course, this episode is really the big reveal of Moff Gideon as this season's big bad. And of course he's making a power play with the other Imperial commanders or warlords and places himself as the person to lead the new empire, or as it will be known, the First Order. Obviously we have known all along that Gideon was experimenting with cloning, but we also meet Brendel Hux, who's in charge of Project Necromancer, which is, well, we are left to make up our own minds about this one, but everyone's money is on this being the project to resurrect Emperor Palpatine. Oh, and Grand Admiral Thrawn has now been name-dropped quite prominently, which might set up a cameo next week, but definitely sets up the Ahsoka series. So with the United Mandalorians making their first mission to retake Mandalore, they find what's left of the planet's inhabitants sailing on a huge barge that skims over the glass-like surface of Mandalore, which looked really good. There was one thing that happened which seems to have generated some debate, and this is what exactly was that huge creature that burst out of the ground and destroyed the barge? Some people are saying it's the mythosaur, but after careful scrutiny by yours truly, it isn't. In fact, it's more of a gigantic ankylosaurus. I have spoken. But of course this episode ends on a cliffhanger, with Din captured by Moff Gideon's Beskar-wearing Death Troopers, and poor Paz Vizsla making the ultimate sacrifice after being taken down by Praetorian guards. So this is certainly a step up from previous week's output. The story is now firmly in motion. But is this too little too late? Well, to be honest, it is. When The Mandalorian is good, it's very good, but we haven't had much of that at all this season. It's meandered all over the place before getting to this point, and now that it has, we only have one episode left. But is that the intention? For the first time, will a season of The Mandalorian end on a cliffhanger? Will nothing actually get resolved next week as basically they've run out of episodes? Well, we still have the mythosaur plot point, and I don't know how they will let anyone tame it and use it to roust the Imperial forces of Mandalore in the space of one episode. But since when has logic played any part in plotting this season? But with Moff Gideon holding all the cards and our heroes on the back foot, things are looking pretty bleak. But this episode has achieved one thing, and that is I'm excited to see what happens next week, and I haven't felt like that for a long time. But before I go, the episode title, The Spies. We know of one spy, Elia Kane. But it's spies plural, so who are the others? Now for me there are two possibilities. Axwoves went off to get help after the first ambush, and the armourer left the planet with the walking wounded before any of the ambushes occurred, and her helmet is horned just like Moff Gideon's. So, could there be one last twist in the tale before this season is over?